So I'm going to demonstrate a successful password crack using the GPU accelerated version of Hashcat. I'm on Windows 10. You could use a virtual machine or Kali Linux. Hashcat is default on most Kali Linux versions, but if you did use a VM, you would have to use the legacy version of Hashcat, which is a CPU accelerated. To avoid complexity and to save on time, I'm just going to stick with Windows 10 and use my GPU. So once installed, the first thing you're going to do is create two different text files. The first text file you want to create is a hash. You're going to copy and paste the generated hash value or one that's captured using Wireshark or any other sniffing methods. This hash is MD5. For demonstration purposes and to save on time, I'm going to be using MD5 because using brute force with a GTX 1080, it doesn't take long, and I just want to show you a successful attempt. And then we have our cracked text file. We're going to let Hashcat do all the work on this one and leave it blank. So you want to navigate to your Hashcat folder, and then you're going to use Hashcat commands. I'm going to use the 64-bit version. Now I'm using a -mo, which signifies I'm using an MD5 hashing algorithm. And then I'm going to do -a3, which signifies that I'm going to use a brute force method. For a longer password, I would recommend using a dictionary attack method like we discussed. Uh, just because it may seem faster to brute force 8 characters, I think would take me about 4 days. And just to show you a successful attempt, I'm going to brute force a relatively short MD5 password. Now I'm going to output this password to my crack.txt file, and Hashcat is going to pull the hash from hash.txt. I'm going to let that run. And it's done. I'm going to scroll to the top and I'll show you a few things here. So because I'm using a GTX 1080 and it is an MD5 hash value, it took less than a second. Um, the more powerful your graphics card, the faster this is going to be. So the first few sessions, the status becomes exhausted. That's because it's giving me a note that says the word list or mask that you're using is too small, and I can't fully use the power of my device. That won't matter because I'm brute forcing a shorter password. If I were doing a longer SHA-256 or a more complex algorithm, I would use a pretty extensive word list. Like we discussed in class, you could use a 20 gig or 200 gig, but for a brute force, you will not need a word list. So I'll scroll all the way down to the very last session here that was successful. Um, Status cracked. The hash type was MD5. The hash target, the target that we pulled from our hash.txt, and then recovered 1 out of 1. And then we'll return to our hashcat file here, and then we'll open up our cracked.txt, and now it'll show the cracked password.